Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of the Arsenal preview show. Looking ahead to the next fixture in Canada for the Gunners, and today's show is all about Brentford on Saturday. Interesting game. Of course, Arsenal coming off the back of 2 defeats now, so it's really important that we manage to get a response against the Bees. To do so, as always, I'm joined by some fantastic members of our Discord community. First of all, it's Dan. How you doing, Dan? You good? You well?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. Very excited for the game. I haven't seen us concede yet when I've been at the Emirates this season, so I hope that will stay.
Wow. No pressure then on this one at all.
For sure.
Lovely stuff. Hoping that is to be the case this time around. And we're also joined by Garrett. How you doing, Garrett?
Not too bad, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. And chat box, thank you so much as always for joining us. Apologies for the slight change of time. I just set the wrong time. It's as simple as that. But thank you for those of you that are indeed tuning in. So interesting fixture, Dan, with it being Brentford, a team that we beat quite comfortably earlier on in the season, but have been on quite a good run of form of late.
They are on the top of the form table. I saw 13 points out of the last 15. So they are looking very good, or maybe out of the last 18. They're looking extremely good. But we're Arsenal and we need to bounce back from that blip. And I was thinking this at the Everton game that we lost. I feel like you could have put prime Barcelona there and they'd still lose to that Sean Dyche side. I feel like it was inevitable it was going to happen. So we just need to kind of learn from it, but move on. And I feel Brentford at home at 3:00 as well. I love a 3:00 kickoff. I feel this is the time to really bounce back, and I'm hopeful for this one.
Yeah, me too. I'm hopeful that, of course, that we can get the result that we need, and it is a result that we need. Garrett, is there a concern for you that with what's happening in midweek, that there's so much distraction around that game that it's difficult to not think about City whilst playing a completely different fixture?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, we always see Arteta when he talks to press just one game at a time, and that might just be for the press, but I don't think so. I think that is really how he views it. He just views it one at a time. I mean, every 3 points in this league are hard to come by. There's no easy games, so I think the focus will be on Saturday fully, and that's kind of. I'll show you. I suppose you'll see that from my team. I think we need to go all out really at Brentford, as Dan was saying, top of the form table. I mean, these guys aren't pushovers, and I mean, our win there was good, but bear in mind we were the only team to do that to them at home. I mean, no other team has gone there and kind of put them, I suppose, limited them to the way we did. And we played them. So yeah, it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, very tough game. Dan, obviously we've got players coming back. I say coming back. It's almost as if we get so close to seeing Nelson come back, and then he's not necessarily there. Arteta didn't want to confirm anything. He said he's not in contention, although he's been in first team training for a number of weeks now. Smith Rowe not back. Gabriel Jesus not back yet. But when I say returning, obviously Thomas Partey took part in full training. There was a bit of a worry, of course, when he came off against Everton, but he's been fully involved. Do you expect any kind of changes from Arteta with the temptation of City in the week?
No, I think we need to look at this, as you said, Garrett, game after game at a time, because let's say we don't put all our eggs into Brentford and we're focusing a bit on Man City ahead. What if we were to lose tomorrow and then you go into a Man City game without those 3 points? And I think we have to get 3 points. It's like I'd much rather just put our strongest 11 in and get the 3 points and then worry about Man City. And maybe if we're 2-0 up at half time, then we can take Partey off. But I would have to start a strongest team as we can. And I think Arteta knows the strongest lineup.
Yeah, I think we all do. I think all that will reflect in the teams that we've picked, which we'll come on to shortly. But Garrett, is there any sense from you that Arteta might be tempted to make a couple of tweaks?
I'm not so sure. I mean, you could look at kind of Martinelli in the Everton game. When you actually looked at kind of where the players were in the pitch, I mean, he was very isolated. Zinchenko was he didn't really have much support there. So some people might, on face value, say, we didn't play well, but I don't think that's fair. When you actually take into account the context. So no, I think he'll stick. I think he knows what he's going to do, and it'll be strong.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he will stick. He's got form of playing the strongest possible team in games in a short space of time. Remember, there was a time where we played like 3 games in 7 days. I think it was back in 21. We had like West Ham, Southampton, and someone else, and we played the same team in all 3 games. And I think we won all 3 games. So, there are examples of where he's decided to play the same and the best team in each fixture. Do you think that will change, Dan? Like, considering the fact that we are adding more strength in depth and we are trying to get as close to the City and the Pep model of having kind of 2 really quality players in each position. That do you think there'll become a time where Arteta will begin to start rotating players for these Premier League games?
I'm not entirely sure. I think if we can play our strongest lineup, we play our team. So when Jesus hopefully comes back and Smith Rowe, if he ever does, once they're back fully fit, I think we're still going to play the same 11. We'll have Europa League by then, where we can rotate. But going back to the Premier League, I think we're always just going to stick to that 11 because a new thing, I guess, with the 5 subs is football isn't all about the 11 players. It's about the squad. It's about who can come off the bench. And maybe having Nketiah off the bench for half an hour or Jesus, whoever that might be really important. It doesn't mean they have to start, or like Fabio Vieira or Smith Rowe or Trossard. It's quite good that they're on the bench. So I'm not too worried if they're starting. I think we have to just start who we know, and I'm looking forward to, a bit off topic, I'm looking forward to see Jesus back quite soon.
Yeah, of course. And Arteta was asked about him in his pre-match conference. Gave probably the most positive update we've had on him in a long time, saying that he's getting closer, that they're doing some work outside. He's obviously going to be massive for us when he does return. To see like that level of quality come into a team that's already top of the table, has maintained that position. That was the big question when he got injured, Garrett, wasn't it? Is when Jesus got injured, how are Arsenal going to cope with that? And you have to say, Eddie, who we expect to start on Saturday, has done a brilliant job, and I expect that you probably expect him to continue that fine form.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think much like Martinelli, I mean, Dyche had a plan last game. He shut him out of the game, kind of shut down our midfield to stop the supply to him, But Brentford don't play like that. Yeah, no, they don't. They're not going to play like Sean Dyche's Everton have and do. So no, I think he'll be. I think you'll see later on, but I think he'll do well. He'll do well, no doubt about that.
Dan, what do you make of Brentford as a team? Because obviously they've got Ivan Toney up top, who scored, I think, 70% of their goals, something like that this season. Yes, they've had goals from Mbeumo. Wissa's got a couple of goals as well. Norgard scored, has got a good record of scoring against us, ironically, actually, as well. But what have you made of them this season? Because they are a decent side that are pushing potentially for a European place this year.
Yeah, they're not far off getting a European space. They played some good football. Thomas Frank knows what he's doing. They're a weird side because they can beat Man City away from home, but then they can lose 4-0 to Aston Villa and lose 5-1 to Newcastle. So I'm kind of hoping that we're an Aston Villa or Newcastle and we're going to absolutely smash them tomorrow. But they, like I said, they can beat Man City. So they're one of those weird sides. You don't quite know what's going to happen, but because they're on this good form, I am slightly worried. But I'm hoping that just us being top and we're going to play our way is going to outcome their form.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying they've not lost a league game since October. That Aston Villa game that you mentioned, I think that's the last time I actually lost a game in the league. Since
I think they
that,
drew to lost to West Ham, I think.
You might be right. We'll go through. So since that Villa game, they drew 2-2 with Forest. They were knocked out of the League Cup by Gillingham, up the Gills. They then beat Manchester City 2-1. Then we had the World Cup. They drew 2-2 with Spurs on the return. They beat West Ham 2-0. They beat Liverpool 3-1. They lost to West Ham in the FA Cup. That's where you've got that result from.
Yeah, I think so.
They've beaten Bournemouth 2-0. They've drawn with Leeds and then beaten Southampton 3-0. So they are, you would argue, in the best form. If you did a table, I suppose, from the World Cup coming back, I think they would be top of that table, because Arsenal have obviously lost and drawn their games against Everton and Newcastle. Man City have dropped points as well in that time. It'd be interesting to see. I think that they would probably top that form table. So, Garrett, are you worried about them in any sense? Do they pose a threat when they arrive at the Emirates, or do you have faith that we've got the quality to be able to beat them?
I definitely think they pose a threat, kind of as me and Dan has said. I think that it's evident that they do. There's no lineup, but I think it's more of a mentality, and I think I really felt it against United when Rashford first scored that goal. I was saying to one of the lads, like, last season, I think it would have been curtains at that point. I couldn't have seen us coming back, but the fact that we did come back and just went on to win, I think that shows the shift in mentality. And even these last two losses, I don't think it's going to derail it. I really don't. So I think we'll, get back on track. And I look, I was kind of thinking that last week as well, but I suppose I didn't really take into account who we were playing and how he plays. But this one's at home as well. Our record at home this year has been great. So I'm worried. I am, but I think the lads will come around and they'll show a big push from last week. Because they won't be satisfied with that.
Yeah, I don't think they will be either. Let's go to the lineups and have a look at what we've got. Obviously, Garrett, you're up first. Obviously, for the benefit of the audio listeners, I can tell everybody that we've all gone for the same team. So talk us through it and then why you've picked who you've picked.
Yeah, so I have gone with the same lineup as we put out for Everton. So that is Randall and Nets, Zinchenko left back, Gabriel and Saliba, White, Partey, Xhaka and Odegaard, and then Martinelli, Saka, and Eddie up front. So yeah, I really didn't really want to see any changes, to be honest. I could see some people maybe arguing Trossard for Martinelli, but I think I kind of alluded to it earlier. Would be a bit harsh on Martinelli. But look, at the end of the day, we'll see tomorrow, I suppose. But yeah, this is the team I'd like to see anyway. I think they'll be fired up, as I've said. So yeah, I expect them to be to put out a good performance. And Eddie, as I've said, I think after the last game, he'll have a bit more in him, and I think he'll I expect him to score one, if not more, to be honest.
Yeah, I hope that you're right, because we could really do with him hitting some form ahead of that game against Man City. Dan, just going to your team as well. Obviously, same 11, but you've gone with Saka. Talk us through it.
I just think Saka's he's just a very good player. There's not much to say about it, and I think he's going to cause some problems. I think they've got Henry, not Henry, at left back, and I think he can compete and do really well against Henry. So I'm kind of hopeful Saka does well, and I've captained him in my FPL team, so that's also partly the reason why.
Yeah, I made a big mistake with FPL because I didn't captain either of the double game week boys, because I just completely forgot, in a sense, to even change my captain, because it should have been so easy to keep Haaland in, and that has set me back. I'm going to lie, it's a big mistake. But a lot of people triple captained Rashford this week or last week in the games, and I think that maybe jumped the gun a bit soon, because Arsenal have got coming up a very good double game week in which they play Everton at home, and I think the Aston Villa. Is Aston Villa away, or is it Leicester away?
Yeah.
Leicester away, who have turned their form recently, it should be said. But that could be an opportunity to see if anyone's in form and scoring plenty of goals by that point. And maybe Saka's the one to go for across those games. We'll have to wait and see. I've gone for Granit Xhaka as my star man. I just feel he's so key in these types of games at home, keeping the control, keeping the possession going. He's been so important for us the entire season. And if we are indeed to kind of arrest a bit of a slide of form, and we haven't had too many of them this year, but obviously we have faced the last two games and lost them both, you're going to need the characters like Xhaka, I think, in your team to do that. It was great to kind of see comments made. I think Martin Odegaard was talking about Xhaka recently. He's obviously done, I don't know if you guys watched the what's it called, the carpool karaoke with Frimpong with Xhaka.
Brilliant.
It's very good if you haven't. It's just that feel-good factor around the club at the moment. I think Xhaka, as one of the more experienced and older members of the squad, is certainly a massive part of that. He was a really good character in the All or Nothing series as well. I think that enlightened a lot of people to kind of his impact on the players too, and certainly as well around the abuse that the players suffer. He was a big part of that. So as comeback stories go, he's kind of the king of that. And I think that in a game where we need to come back from a run of really poor results, he's again going to be really, really important in that. Okay, let's go to predictions. So chat box, time to get your scorelines in. Dan, we'll start with you. Scoreline and scorers, please.
I'm going to be very confident. Like I said, I'm going to the game. I want to see a big win. I'm going to say 4-0. They have lost 4-0 to Aston Villa, so why not? So I'm going to say the scores will be Saka to get a brace, Nketiah to get one. I'm going to say Zinchenko to get his first Arsenal goal, and Martinelli to get a couple of assists to kind of boost his confidence. And Odegaard as well.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 3-1. Eddie with a brace and a Saka with the other one. And for them, I don't know, they do have a few threats. So I think I could see maybe, a moment of madness and something coming off. Set pieces as well. They have a good few big enough people in their team. So that's a potential threat as well.
Yeah, definitely. They have threats, and we need to be aware of those threats. We've got to try and deal with them. Ivan Toney's the obvious one, but they've got a lot of pace in those wide areas too. They're not playing the back three system that we beat them with when we went to their place earlier in the campaign. They've switched to a back four now, which has created it a kind of a much better. It's been one of the reasons why they've turned their form, is that change. So it is going to be a different challenge. Hopefully we can overcome it. I've gone for a 3-0 as well, as forever the optimist as always. Eddie with a couple and a Ben White screamer from outside the box, of course, is the TGT prediction. One day it will happen. I'll tell you what, if it does happen, we'll have to get like Ben White on our upcoming merchandise, like scoring that screamer, something like that.
I feel like didn't Cedric score twice against Brentford not long ago?
Cedric? Did Cedric score against Brentford?
I feel like he scored twice. I might be making this up. Maybe
you might be making it up.
Chat box could help. So if Cedric
I feel like I remember that scoring against. I know that he came off the bench and scored one against somebody, but I don't remember him scoring. I'm now looking back over last season to see if, because they've only been in the Premier League for last season and this. Is that right? I'm sure that's right. He scored. No, he scored and assisted against Everton last season, but not against Brentford. So I don't know where you've got that from.
I don't know either.
No idea where that's.
Yeah, I tell you what, it was a club friendly when we played Brentford, 1-4-0, and Cedric scored twice. So that's why I've.
The knowledge runs so deep. He's going into friendlies now.
Yeah,
behind the scenes friendly.
So if he could score twice, then I guess Ben White can score a screamer.
Yeah, surely. Get his first goal. Michael's going for a 4-1 Arsenal win. Temmy's going for a 2-0 Arsenal win. Penny Win says 6-0 because we're pumped and Eddie to get all 6. Javier says 2-1 Arsenal with a penalty call in the last 15 minutes. It's going to be tight. Yomi, I can tell you I'm not going to this game, so there's no bad omen for this one. I will be watching it from home and covering it from home. Marley says 2-0 Arsenal. David John says 2-0 Arsenal with Nketiah getting both. ML Reaction says Saka and Eddie in a 2-0 win. Ansa says Nketiah with 2 and Martinelli with 1 in a 3-1 win. Rich says 2-1 and Nav says 3-1. Stephen says Xhaka, Gabriel and Eddie with 3 in a 3-1 win. Momo says 2-1 Trossard with the winner. That'd be great, coming off the bench perhaps. Belden says 4-1 Arsenal win on this one. And Kevin's going for a 2-0 Arsenal win as well. We'll continue to throw those. The rest of Yomi says 1-0 Nketiah as well as we wrap things up. Dan, thank you so much for your time, my friend. Much appreciated. Tell people where they can find you.
Cheers, thank you. Yeah, you can find me in the Discord chat. I'm on Twitter. I don't really use it, but yeah, definitely become a member, join the Discord. It's very good.
Checks in the post. And Garrett, thank you so much for your time as well. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, cheers, Tom. Thanks very much. It was good to be on again. And yeah, same as Dan, you can find me in the Discord, and yeah, well, it means join up.
Lovely stuff. We've had a fair few people join the Discord server in the last couple of weeks or so. Welcome to all those brand new members. A few people have sent me messages saying they can't join up because it doesn't kind of show up and the link's not working. The best way I can give you advice is to go to your desktop. That's usually the best way to do it. If iOS doesn't really support the membership thing. I have gone back and forth with actually ending the YouTube side of it and switching to something else to make it more simple to do a membership scheme, but it might be something we revisit in the summer. I know Harry has switched over to something else away from YouTube, so it might be something that we choose to do just because it's becoming too difficult for people to actually become members. And Peony Ween points out, yes, the Strava, if you would like to join our Strava group, you just go to www.strava.com/clubs/ESARP. And you can join up with our group of fitness buddies that are all trying to get much healthier and lose weight together, which is a really good cause. And it's great to see over 100 of our athletes now in that club as well. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We'll be back, of course, after tonight. I'll be back tomorrow morning with the show, but we'll also be doing probably an evening look at the game against Brentford. If not, that'll be for you on Sunday. So plenty of content to come. Do stay well. Do stay safe. Dan, Garrett, thank you once again. Much appreciate your time, boys, as always. And we'll see you all very soon. Have a fantastic weekend. And as always, up the Arsenal.